Alrighty, everyone, welcome back to day number 3 of our KidzLit book for the week, National Parks of the USA, and today we will be exploring the Southwest. Many of the Southwest parks were founded for their bizarre geology. In other words, crazy-looking rocks. Stone arches and skinny pinnacles stretch into the blue desert sky higher than 3-story buildings. The nation's largest canyon plummets more than a mile deep into the earth, and colorful, sparkly, petrified logs litter an old riverbed. These otherworldly lands can seem devoid of life, but lots of plants and animals find homes here. Sagebrush scents the air, and prickly pear and chala cacti bloom in colors as bright as stoplights. Lizards sun themselves in the heat of noontime, and coyotes and mountain lions prowl the night. Long before us, the ancients knew about the beauty of such landscapes too. Discovered the corn cobs, stone pots, and magnificent cliff palaces they left behind long ago. So some of the places we're going to explore in the Southwest are Bryce Canyon, Capitol Reef, Arches, Canyonlands, Mesa Verde, Carlsbad Caverns, Guadalupe Mountains, Saguaro, Petrified Forests, the Grand Canyon, Joshua Trees, Death Valley, Zion, and the Great Basin. Floating on a rubber raft down the Colorado River, you hear a distant rumble. It grows louder and louder. Hold on tight, that's the sound of a whitewater rapid. Some of these waves are bigger than a small house. This powerful water makes a great roller coaster ride. It's also the force that carved the Grand Canyon, the biggest chasm in the country, at 18 miles wide and more than 5,000 feet deep. You'll see many wonders on your 277-mile journey through it. A bright turquoise stream tumbles into the river. Bighorn sheep tiptoe across cliffs. Rare condors swoop above, and cacti bloom in colors as vibrant as crayons. Look carefully, and you might spot the stacked rocks and square windows of a house built centuries ago by Native Americans. All right, so the Grand Canyon is in Arizona. It was founded in 1919, and its size is 1,217,403 acres. Some animal and plants we've got living here are bats. They are the only mammals that can fly. There are 22 bat species in the canyon, which has plenty of caves, cliffs, and old mines where they roost during the day. Like circus performers, ringtails climb straight up and down cliffs, squeeze into tight spaces, turn their hind legs 180 degrees, and even do cartwheels. One of the rarest birds in the United States, the California condor, is a scavenger and soars on an almost 10-foot wingspan looking for dead animals to feast on. The claret cup hedgehog cactus. In spring, they erupt in dozens of lipstick red blooms pollinated by hummingbirds. Bright yellow rabbit brush is a very useful plant. Deer and hares eat it, and birds and rodents nest under it. Native Americans once used it to make yellow dye, cold medicine, and chewing gum. Desert bighorn sheep clamber up and down rock faces that would make human beings shudder. The steep terrain is their hideout from predators like mountain lions. Native Americans used to brew an energizing tea from the plant's stems and create tattoos from its charcoal of the Mormon tea. The most venomous scorpions on the continent, these thumb-sized insects grab smaller bugs with their pincers and sting them with their tails. A mama scorpion can carry up to 30 babies on her back. The canyon is very dry, but water travels deep underground. If you see an explosion of green plants on a cliff, you know you found one of the 600-plus springs where water comes to the surface. These are often special quiet places known only to wildlife and intrepid adventurers. Listen to the drip, drip of water and the song of a canyon wren. Breathe in the fresh scents of maidenhair ferns and scarlet monkey flower. Stay still and you might spot birds taking a drink. shy frogs swimming about, or newly hatched tadpoles. The invasive species, tamarisk. In the 19th century, Americans planted tamarisk to control erosion. Little did they know that this Eurasian plant would grow gangbusters. It spread to rivers and streams throughout the West, slurping up precious water and growing so fast it edged out native plants. Now crews in the Grand Canyon uproot or kill tamarisk with pesticides in order to allow native plants room to grow. Scientists estimate that there are about 1,000 caves hidden in the Grand Canyon, but fewer than half of them have been explored. Already, spelunkers have discovered amazing treasures in these stone tunnels, like the mummified remains of extinct Ice Age animals and 2 figurines left by ancient indigenous people. What wild mysteries might still hide in these dark chambers? Can you imagine what 134 degrees feels like? That record high temperature was recorded in the shade in 1913 in Death Valley, making it the hottest place on Earth. Death Valley is also the driest and lowest place in North America, but don't let its alarming name scare you. It's full of wonders, and besides, animals don't seem to mind the harsh conditions. Bighorn sheep, cottontails, reptiles, and even tiny fish all make homes here, but they're tough to spot. Inspect smooth sand dunes in the morning to see the tracks of kangaroo rats, lizards, and rattlesnakes, then careen down on a sled. Don't miss crunching along the crusty surface of Badwater Basin, which is the lowest point in America at 282 feet below sea level. Its surface is made of the same kind of salt that you find on your dinner table. Death Valley is in 2 states. It's in California and Nevada. It was founded in 1994, and its size is 3,340,370 acres. Some animal and plants we have living here are desert tortoises. They spend up to 9 months of the year hibernating underground, only emerging in spring and fall when the weather is nice. They can live more than 50 years. The panicky beetle, also known as a stink bug, stands on its head when threatened. Don't pick it up or it'll spray a smelly black liquid on you. Oof, that would be awful. The devil's hole pupfish. This thumb-sized iridescent blue swimmer is one of the rarest fish in the world, living only in Devil's Hole, a watery cavern in Death Valley. To escape the heat, kit foxes hide in underground dens during the day and then come out in the cool of the night to hunt kangaroo rats, bunnies, reptiles, and insects. The humble pickleweed has a secret that helps it survive in Death Valley's salt flats and marshes. It can stand on an incredible amount of salt. Smash it, and it smells like the ocean, even a little fishy. Death Valley is very hot and dry, not exactly perfect conditions for flowers to grow. But about every 10 years, freakish rains come and wildflowers that were dormant grow like crazy, creating a colorful carpet. See if you can spot the prized Desert 5 spot. You can identify a red-tailed hawk, the most common hawk on the continent, by its telltale crimson tail and its high-pitched scream. Kangaroo rats suck moisture from seeds, which they carry in cheek pouches and store in burrows. To bathe, they roll around in the dust. Chuckwalla. These large lizards don't need drink at all, which is lucky as Death Valley has an average annual rainfall of 2.36 inches. Chuckwallas get liquid from insects and plants that they eat. The wild twisty Joshua tree isn't a tree or a cactus, but a yucca plant that can grow 30 feet tall. It relies on one single moth, the yucca moth, to pollinate it. Flash floods. Desert soil is pretty hard and doesn't absorb water very well. When intense storms come, water moves faster over the land and collects quickly in low places like canyons. Even if a storm is miles away, the water can rise quickly and powerfully, sweeping away boulders, logs, animals, and even big dumpsters. These floods are what have shaped the canyons and buttes over many years. The phenomenon of moving rocks. Deep in Death Valley, there is an old dry lake bed, a playa, 1,000 feet deep with hardened mud. Rocks as heavy as 700 pounds sit there with long trails behind them in the mud. For years, people were mystified. It looked as if the rocks had moved by themselves. In 2011, scientists happened to be there when the rocks moved. The valley fills with water and freezes into thin panes of ice. On a sunny day, the wind pushes the ice over a cushion of water, driving the rocks to which leaves trails in the mud. Mystery solved. On a big slope shaped like a theater, hundreds of skinny rock formations stand like a frozen audience. These wild skinny stones are called hoodoos, formed by wind and rain eroding the rocks over time. They can be taller than 10-story buildings. Bryce Canyon has more of them than any other place in the world. Walk through towers naturally decorated with all sorts of colors: red, pink, orange, beige, and white. Their hues seem to change with the angle of the sun. But this park isn't just about rocks. There are lots of living things here too. From stealthy mountain lions that patrol remote areas of the park to the tiniest pink wildflower that clings to life in the sandy soil. So Bryce Canyon is located in Utah. It was founded in 1928, and its size is 35,835 acres. Some animals and plants we've got living here is the violet green swallow. Like acrobats, these colorful swallows dart and dive through the air with their mouths open wide to catch insects. Hear those eerie barks and howls after dark? Those are coyotes calling to gather up the members of their pack. Ravens are incredibly smart. Using teamwork, they can break into locked trash cans and unzip backpacks. Some biologists believe they communicate with a basic language. Just about every predator, from mountain lions to coyotes, likes to eat little cottontails. Good thing they reproduce quickly. They can have babies as early as 3 months of age. The tarantula hawk is a giant wasp, is rumored to have the worst sting on the planet. But not to worry, it's not interested in you. A female tarantula hawk stings a tarantula to paralyze it and then lays an egg in its belly. When the egg hatches, the grub eats the tarantula's organs before flying away. The bristlecone pine, as gnarly twisted pine trees, are some of the longest lived beings on Earth. The oldest known bristlecone was 4,900 years old. When under attack, the short-horned lizard can puff up to twice its size, change colors, and even shoot blood through its eyes. The Douglas fir, Native Americans made a skin saw from this tree's pitch and a dye from its bark. Some even burned its cones to halt the rain. The Bryce Canyon paintbrush is a magenta flower that makes food through photosynthesis, but also feeds on other plants by sucking nutrients out of their roots. You feel the wind pick up, the sky darkens with ominous clouds, and then all of a sudden, the birds hush. Boom! Thunder rolls through the sky. A storm is within 10 miles, which means it's time to find cover. Find a car or a building, and avoid trees or tall objects that are isolated in the desert. Lightning likes to hit high points. But just as quickly as these summer monsoons sweep through, the sky clears and the sun emerges again, sometimes within minutes. Because it's in the desert, Bryce Canyon doesn't see a whole lot of clouds all year round. It's also miles from any cities, so it is extremely dark at night. That means that without any light pollution, the night sky is awash with stars that are invisible to city dwellers. Look up and you'll see a huge murky white band across the dome of the heavens. That's the Milky Way, our galaxy full of countless stars, the same glowing stripe that American Indians looked up at hundreds of years ago. 1,400 years ago, on a forested mesa, a group of early people built pit houses and extravagant palaces high up in alcoves on cliff faces. They etched footholds in the vertical rock so they could clamber up and down, farmed beans, corn, and squash, and gathered seeds and fruit. The ancestral Pueblo people, once known as the U.S.A, left around 700 years ago, but about 600 cliff dwellings remain right where they were left, preserved by the dry climate. In 1906, Mesa Verde became the first national park founded to protect archaeology. Wander through spooky stone rooms, keep a lookout for post shreds and half-eaten corn cobs, and scan the cliffs for petroglyphs and charcoal marks from fires that blew out centuries ago. So Mesa Verde is in Colorado. It was founded in 1906, and its size is 52,074 acres. Plants and animals living here. The first up is the Chapin Mesa milkvetch, a very rare plant that only lives on Mesa Verde and nearby tribal lands. In late spring, a single plant can erupt into more than 50 white flowers. The ancients domesticated both dogs and turkeys. You can still see these large, delicious game birds pecking the ground for nuts. The dusky blue pinon jay stores thousands of seeds each year, mostly from pine trees. Thanks to an excellent memory, it can remember where almost all of them are. Turkey vultures are scavengers that soar on 6-foot wingspans and follow their noses to their favorite food, smelly, dead animals. Centuries ago, women used a grinding stone, mano, and surface, metate, to pound corn before cooking it. Corn was grown in Mesa Verde as early as AD 450. The pinyon pine is a hardy tree and may only start reproducing around 50 years of age. The ancestral Puebloans relied on pine nuts for protein. They also used the wood for house posts and fires. Thanks to a rotating forearm, gray foxes are the only canine species that climb trees. Sometimes they'll even den in a hollow trunk. Mostly nocturnal, this mouse dwells in the pinyon juniper woodlands and only lives to about a year of age. Before the ancestral Pueblo people built their magnificent palaces, they lived in pit houses on the top of the mesa and sometimes in the alcoves, where they later built towers. These pit houses were partly underground, supported by timbers, and topped with a roof made of branches and clay. They usually featured 2 rooms, an antechamber likely used for storage, and a main room with a fire and a smoke hole. The collared lizard is a colorful reptile and can run really fast on its hind legs, allowing for it to see far across the land as it chases bugs and other lizards. Kivas were basically the synagogues, mosques, or churches of today. The ancients used handmade ladders to descend into these round underground chambers to perform ceremonies and take shelter. A midden is basically a fancy word for a heap of trash. Just outside of their homes, the ancestral Pueblo people tossed their garbage, broken pots, corn cobs, old tools, leftover dinner scraps. Now these middens are treasure troves for archaeologists who sift through the sand to find clues to the ancients' way of life. In both middens and dwellings, archaeologists have discovered artifacts from all over, such as shell necklaces from the coast, copper bells from Mexico, and macaw feathers from Central America. All right, everyone, that brings us to the end of part 3. I hope you guys are really enjoying the book so far. We are about halfway through, and I'll see y'all tomorrow for part 4.